Okay, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and this is day 23 in for my participation in the RPG A Day event for 2017. If this is the first time seeing one of these videos, this is an exercise where every day in the month of August in 2017, we are answering a different question relating to role-playing games. Today, this is quite late in posting because it's about 1 billion degrees here today, and I'm in the course of moving, and my poor pup is feeling a bit under the weather, so I am feeling a bit torn in many different directions. So you'll have to excuse if this is a bit short and or a bit rambly. So I mentioned in yesterday's video that actually, I'm not sure. This speaks to how things are. I can't remember if I gave the full spiel as to what these videos are. If it's the first time watching one of these, then what this is an exercise where we answer a different question for every day in the month of August 2017 for relating to role-playing games. There is a set list of suggested questions. However, today I am going off script for that. I don't really find I've got much to say about some of the questions that are in the latter part of this, so I'm actually stealing an idea from a fellow YouTuber, Ruslinger, who has had very, very thoughtful and comprehensive answers to all the questions so far, and he helpfully suggested that if I was feeling a bit burned out on the questions that are as written, to perhaps use one of the suggested alternatives that he has posted on his blog. It's the Casting Shadows blog, and if you just do a Google search for, I'll put up a link to the alternate questions in my in the description of the video. But if you do a search for RPG A Day 2017 alternate questions, you'll find that, and you'll find his pretty awesome blog as well. So the first question, I'm going to sort of go in order here. The first question he's got suggested as an alternate is, what do you look for in a review of an RPG? Now, we had a previous entry where we talked about, or I talked about, I should say, where I go for reviews and what I look for. In a sort of roundabout way, I'm going to just address specifically what I look for in a review. I mentioned earlier this month that one of the things I look for is, actual play, and that remains true. I mean, I think because of my past experience with certain games that play differently, and in particular, one review that I read of the Star Wars role-playing game by Fantasy Flight, which I adore. I think it's just a terrific system. It has captured in my mind, captured the feel of Star Wars better than any other edition of the Star Wars game that's been published. So I really love it. But it was a review I read that said that it read differently than it actually plays, and that he had the guy who wrote it. His experience was that he was not keen on it when he read it, didn't sort of see the appeal, and he played it, and it totally transformed his opinion of it. I personally have had that experience with other systems as well too. Savage Worlds is a system I think that for me it played a lot better than it actually read. So that's one of the things I like seeing that in there. I like to see unbiased reviews too. I mean, if what someone has to say about a review is critical, and that there are shortcomings in the game, then that's fine. But what I want to see is a fair assessment. My sort of rule of thumb, and this is again completely subjective, but my subjective rule of thumb, say for whether someone has executed a film well, for me, is did they make the film they intended to make? One of my favorite films is Tremors. It is a mid or late 80s film that features the dad from Family Ties and Kevin Bacon fighting a bunch of underground worms. Now, I haven't seen actually any of the subsequent ones, but I love Tremors because it is, from what I can tell, was intended to be a inversion of the sort of 50s sci-fi horror films, the ones featuring a singular weird monster and whatever. And I love it. It's a great film. It's exactly the film that it intends to be. So that's what I look for in a review of games too. Is, are they being fair to what the game tried to be? I don't think it's fair to criticize a game for not being something that it was never intended to be. So I want to see that. That's a specific aspect of the sort of fair assessment that I would want to see from a review. I like seeing length. I mean, I tend to be a little long in my descriptions as well. So I want to see some actual comprehensive analysis of it. Actually, a buddy of mine, Jared Rashner, does some really good, comprehensive, and thoughtful reviews of the games that he reviews as well too. So if you want to see an example of that, maybe I'll put a link to his blog in the notes as well. But RPG Net, I honestly don't know whether they still do that. I imagine they still do reviews. I don't know whether it's the same quality as it was before, but there was a time in the early 2000s or early aughts, I guess, where RPG Net had some incredible reviews that were comprehensive, that were playtest reviews, that really gave you a sense of exactly what that game would be like. They also did a good job of selling, whatever the new hot game was, happened to be at the time. I ended up getting into Demon the Fallen at the time because I read some stellar reviews of it. I still have yet to actually run that game, but I still have my memory of what their review was like in it. So that's what I'd like to see too, is because this is an active hobby. This isn't something I'm just going to read. I want to do something with these products. I prefer to see reviews that have shown, that they've put it through its paces, as it were. I obviously also want to know about the content, what's left out, and whatever. So, so that's kind of what I look for. I mean, I guess some of that stuff is pretty standard fare. What's in the book is sort of, I guess, what would go with a review. I'm not fussed about stars or not. I think that I prefer when there isn't like a number system on that. That seems like just an arbitrary way for people who don't really want to engage with a review to just buy into whatever the assessment is. I'm sure it's a carryover from film reviews, and maybe that's a carryover from theater reviews or book reviews. But honestly, I don't know whether book reviews I'm not a frequent New Yorker reader, so I don't know whether the book reviews routinely do that, but I think that I would prefer not seeing that. An executive summary at the end, is not a bad thing. Saying just like, this is in a nutshell, here's what I think about this product. That's, I think, enough and more effective than just a random, Amazon, whatever star rating. In particular for products that are, mixed bags, where there is some shortcomings in them, but there are also some really great things in them. I think that to give it just a random 3, star review, say, out of 5, that does a disservice to the reader, because you're not saying it's a mediocre product. You're saying it's excelling in some ways, and it's got shortcomings in others. And if someone, as a reader or as someone reading the review, they may only be looking for the stellar stuff, or may only be looking for the shitty stuff. In which case, then what you're really providing is a 5-star review or a 1-star review, depending on what you're looking for in that game. But in any event, that is my answer to Runeslinger's substitute question. Tomorrow, I think that the default question is also one I'm not really particularly keen in answering, so I'm going to be going with Runeslinger's list here. The question for tomorrow will be campaigns. Do you prefer set length or open-ended play? That is going to be an interesting one. I'm in the process of transitioning between campaigns right now for our Friday night game, or Friday night session, I should say. So I have some thoughts on that that have changed actually from the way I used to run things, or have run them in the past. So that may be a more substantive answer. But in any event, as always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the section below. And heat notwithstanding, sick dog notwithstanding, moving notwithstanding, I will still endeavor to respond in a timely fashion. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you again tomorrow. See ya.